Hi everybody, welcome back once again to the Eastfield Gunroom YouTube channel. Today's review, we have got quite a special little Miroku for you. Before we crack on, if you haven't liked and subscribed to the channel already, please do that because it does help us bring you content like this. So, on with the review. I make no bones about the fact that I am a huge Miroku fan. And don't get me wrong, the majority of them I absolutely love. Big fan of MK38s, as you'll know, MK60, MK70. Incidentally, we haven't looked at an MK60 on the channel, which we're going to technically do today. So I've mentioned it before, I'll mention it again. There is a big shooting expedition in Germany once a year, usually in March, called IWA. And at that particular show, Browning Miroku, same umbrella, we'll take a number of kind of prototype guns to the show to see what the interest is and to decide whether they actually reach production. And this we're going to look at today is another one of those. So this gun is called a Miroku English Field. It is technically an MK60, and with a name like English Field, this has obviously been designed specifically for the UK market and for game shooters over here. So if you know a bit about Mirokus, you will know that they pioneered the high bird, tall pheasant, high pheasant game gun back in, I think, about 2014 or 15. They came up with the concept of having a long barrel, 32-inch fixed choke game gun with tight chokes for people to go and shoot these stratospheric birds that we have some places here in the UK. So this gun is kind of a progression from that in the fact that it has very similar aspects, similar benefits, if you like. But what I want to do is I want to talk about this particular gun against another model that is currently available. So the original high pheasant, which was an MK60 action. If you don't know what an MK60 is, it is basically a fixed choke version of an MK70. So you've got the MK38, which we've done in many reviews, so do check that out. They are multi-choke sporting guns or fixed choke trap guns. The 60 and the 70 is much more all-rounder guns. And like I say, you've got a fixed choke version, which there are people that prefer fixed choke barrels because of the balance and the feel. And the 70 is the same kind of gun, but with the addition of multi-chokes. So when the MK60 High Pheasant was first launched in the UK, it was only available as a grade 5. It was marketed as a particular type of game shooter that wanted a game gun just to shoot tall pheasants. And it's exactly what it does on the tin. Very popular. Miroku sold a lot here in the UK. When Miroku wanted to move this model forward, they came up with what is now the High Pheasant 2, which is a multi-choke version with the features of this gun, but the added versatility of being a multi-choke. Now, the English Field is different to the original High Pheasant in many ways. I want to talk to you about that now. Initially, the MK60 High Pheasant Mark 1, we'll call it, bore the same engraving style as an MK38 grade 5, as an MK70 grade 5. It was that kind of candy cane engraving scroll work that we all know and love. What they did with this is they went more down the lines of something like a B25 D5G. You can see it's a deeper engraving style. It's much more ornate. There's full coverage with it. It's got the word English Field on the bottom, which isn't for me personally. I think they would have just left it blank. We've got an engraved trigger guard. We've got an engraved fore-end iron. So all kind of standard high-grade Miroku gear to start with. So move over to the top. Like I said, it's profusely engraved, full coverage, engraved top lever, engraved back strap. Okay, we've got these two little floral ribbons on the back, engraved selector, engraved barrel wings. Like I say, as you would expect, it's got a bit more than a standard grade 5, but you know that it's kind of the top end of the Miroku range by visually looking at it. Barrel wise, we have got 18.4 nominal bore. With an MK38, they're all 18.7. This gun was designed to be used pretty much solely with fiberwood cartridges. Again, it was a high pheasant, tall bird shooting gun, and that is the specification it came with because they knew people were going to be using big heavy cartridges, which 95% of the time were going to be fiber, and fiber performed better in nominal bore barrels. So the original High Pheasant had got obviously 18.4 nominal bore barrels. We've talked about that. They were only available in 32-inch, and they actually had an 8mm because it was modelled on the MK60 Sport 8mm ventilated rib. What we've got here is we've got a 6mm solid game rib, a bit like you would see on some of the Continental guns from the likes of B. Rosini in particular is the example I would give there. The reason this gun is so special and so unique is because it is the only 32-inch barrel version, I believe, in existence. All of these guns that were bought into the UK English Fields were all 30-inch, and they were all 3/4 full choke, as this is. And it was kind of gave somebody the option of having the slightly shorter barrel length, making it a bit more universal, but still with tight chokes. If you wanted to get it Teague multi-choke, which many people did, obviously that was an option, because what you have with the advantage of when you Teague multi-choke a gun is you don't lose the balance and the feel of a fixed choke gun, and you add thin wall chokes, which makes the gun a whole lot more versatile in terms of shotgun usage. Just be aware that the Mark 1 high pheasant, because they wanted to get below this kind of 8-pound mark, some of the barrels were actually that thin that they couldn't be Teague multi-choke. So do be aware of that if you're looking at potentially owning a Mark 1 high pheasant. You would have thought that with it being 3/4 and 4, you couldn't use steel through it. Well, you can't because of the choke denominations, but the barrels, we've got the 18.4 boring, are actually CIP steel shot and fleur-de-lis high performance steel proof. So should you get the choke seized out, or should you get the gun Teague multi-choke, you will have no issue whatsoever using high performance steel in this gun. Alongside the fact this is nominal bore 18.4, because we talked about this gun being specifically designed for the use of fibre wad cartridges, it is 2 3/4 inch chambers as well, not 3-inch like some of the other Mirokus. And again, that comes down to the fact that you don't want to kind of lose any pressure. And this gun is all about performance. It's all about getting that pattern right up there to those high birds. Just to finish off, engine turning, as you would expect, ejectors, ejector slides, barrel lumps here, nicely done. Now, 8.2 pound, like I said, this gun is a little bit heavier than some of the original high pheasants. Primarily, I would imagine down to the fact that it's got a solid rib, because you've got a bit more metal there. And that balances absolutely beautifully on the hinge pin. So it doesn't feel like a 32-inch gun when you swing it. You can take it out and carry it around all day. You can work with it on a peg. It's not like the weight of some modern guns, for example, Krieghoffs, that people take out. Don't get me wrong, Krieghoff do a fantastic gun called the Parkour, which is very favourable with game shooters. But if you looked at an original kind of a lumpy Krieghoff Super Sport, because you want a big heavy gun to soak up all the recoil and use with big cartridges, this is a joy to use because it is that much lighter. No adjustable trigger, it's a game gun. Automatic safety, as you would expect, because it's all about a game shooter application primarily. And then we move on to some more differences with the woodwork. So on the original high pheasant, what we had is we had a Schnabel forend, because it was essentially an MK60. What Miroku have done here is they've done away with the lip on the front, which we know from previous videos not everyone is a fan of, myself included. Much more rounded design, nice and flat, bit like you get on the 725 range of game guns. Double point checkering. The actual forend feels really nice in the hand, I have to say. Again, there's some differences with the stock. We've got very nicely figured, as we're used to, American walnut in grade 5, nice satin oil finish. We've got double point checkering with the extra point here. We've got the dropper points. We've got the vacant oval. There's a little bit more wood in the comb than the original MK60 high pheasant. And one of the most significant differences for me, if you know about Mirokus and Brownings, for generations they've used these god-awful plastic Bakelite butt pads. What they've done with this, they've looked at the fact that it's a dedicated high bird shotgun. It is going to kick, you are going to put big loads through it, and they've had the clever idea of coming up with a Pacmire decelerator like they use on the Browning Pro Sport, for example. So all in all, a really, really nice, usable, looks the part. It's a tool for a job, but it's got that added bit of elegance to it at the same time. You know, it's not a one-trick pony. Obviously, you could use it for other stuff if you wanted to get it Teague, for example, or you could just shoot tight chokes wherever you want to go. Sadly, from this gun, they then went to the High Pheasant Mark II, which is a factory multi-choke version with similar attributes to this. Yes, we've got the Pacmire recoil pad, we've got the new style forend, we've got the solid game rib. But the addition of putting those factory Invector Plus multi-chokes in the gun makes the thing handle not very nice at all. So my suggestion to you is, if you can't get hold of one of the original ones, because let's not forget, you can Teague the original one, you can put a different butt pad on, you could even slim the forend or replace the forend. Is this particular gun is special because it's 32-inch, so it's got everything you want. But out of the two guns, you've got the desirability and the functionality of the later style recoil pad and the forend, but you've also got the balance and feel of the original MK60. You will not get that in the current High Pheasant 2. I'm sorry to say it, but I don't think it's a great gun. This, however, very, very nice, and so is the original. Moving on to the box. That in itself, if you bought a Mark 1 High Pheasant, you would get the ubiquitous grey cardboard box with Miroku sporting shotgun slapped all over the front of it. With this, we have a Miroku branded Negrini case. Open it up inside. Miroku Japanese technology, one of my favorite phrases. A trigger lock as standard, and of course, because this is a fixed choke, there's very little else going on in the box. We've got no Allen keys to adjust the trigger, we've got no multi-chokes, so we've essentially just got the proof certificate, warranty card, etc. Now, these barrels are 1563, which is a case in point. Like I said, they're a little bit heavier, or the whole overall gun is a bit heavier than the original High Pheasant, and it's mainly because due to that rib. I would imagine if you compare this to an original High Pheasant, again, we'll call it the Mark 1, the barrels are probably something like 30 or 40 grams lighter to get it under that kind of 8 pound, which is what they always wanted to achieve from the outset. Instructions for the case, and that is pretty much it. So just to summarize, this is, I believe, the only 32-inch barrel version MK60 English fields in existence. I've only seen them in 30-inch. This would make a fantastic all-rounder, or as it's designed for, a tool to go out, enjoy, and give you a chance of pulling those stratospheric pheasants out of the sky. It's got all the technology in terms of the barrel design, it's got great feel, and it looks superb. And to be honest with you, because it's Miroku, you know it isn't going to break the bank. If you've got any questions about this particular gun, do feel free to get in touch. Details on the screen. Don't forget to check out the website. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And from me and this genuine one-off, I'll see you soon.